Hello, everyone, and welcome to the series, The Art of Doulagiving. My name is Suzanne O'Brien. This is, again, our graduate spotlight series. We have Doulagiver graduates who are out in the world, changing the world for the better, and I am so honored and privileged to be among them. Today, we have a wonderful guest. You may have seen her on a previous podcast. So again, she probably doesn't need an introduction, but I'm going to give you a little one anyway. Today, this is Jane Whitlock. She trained as an end-of-life doula through Doulagivers out of New York City with myself, Suzanne O'Brien. She also is a trained CNA, Certified Nursing Assistant. She provides practical guidance and support for individuals and families during the end-of-life process. Her work, she says, dovetails nicely with the work of hospice. There's so much more in her bio, but I am going to let her share what she wants to share. Jane, welcome, and thank you so much for being here.
Well, thanks, Suzanne. It's great to be here. I come to you from my place of work, Providence Place, in actually a resident room lab. So what's my question again?
All right, yeah, because we could jump right into that bed that you have behind you, and we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about where you're working now in just a minute. First, I do want to ask you this, like, how did you know that you wanted to be a doula giver? When was that moment, if you could remember, that brought you to the path? Because it's really not something that we think about, right? You know, normally. And I just want to hear what your story was, what brought you to this place, and how did you know?
Right. So before, my early path was all about kids and sports and teaching. And then when my husband died, I had just a wake-up call that life is so short. And I let that feeling and that experience guide me and open myself to my intuition and be like, I'm just going to ask Source, why am I here? And I will follow that path. And it just naturally led me to grief and mourning and death and dying. And I was just, you know, immersing myself in podcasts and books and interviews. Yeah. And then I came across you and I was like, yes, that's what I'm supposed to. It's just like a light bulb went off when I found you and Doulagivers. And then I came to New York and I met Allison Tyler and you, and we, I was off. It was just that I've never looked back.
Okay. I have chills. I don't often get chills, but I have chills because this is so important. So many of the things you just shared, I really want people to hear what you said. Number one, about how fragile our time is and how limited it is. And one of the things that has taught me, the same as you, when I started to become a hospice nurse, I started to live the fullest of my existence than I ever have with working with those at the end of life. When I would get off of work and I was able to actually take a walk in the sunshine at the end of the day, I had that choice. You know, everything, my perspective, the lens in which I look at the world changed in one of the best ways. And one of the things that's our greatest commodity is time, because it's unrefillable and we don't know how much we have. So I love that you shared that. I love that you absolutely said, stop, quiet, why am I here? Because when we know we're holistic beings, and again, end of life shows us that holistic, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, what's happening in that journey. When we can incorporate that into our now and get quiet and tap into that inner wisdom, it's like you almost have to take a radio dial and all the frenetic noise that's happening in the world and tune it in. And once you tune it in, you start getting, and you're like, and when you said, okay, I was doing this, and then yes, I found Doulagivers, and it was a yes. If you would have sat down maybe and kind of said, okay, well, maybe it doesn't make sense, but you knew it was like a yes in all of your cells. And that's what that path and purpose will always give you, that big yes. So like so much that you shared right now. I do want to go back, if I could, a little bit about your journey with your husband. How old was he? Could you share a little bit more about that and what that was like?
Yeah, so my husband was 49, I was 47. We had a 9 and a 12-year-old, and he developed a cough, and he had it all summer, and it never occurred to me that it could be anything serious, but he was just getting more and more sick till eventually they found a tumor on his kidney. And by then it had spread to his lungs, and it was stage 4, and he did treatments for a couple months, but it was a rare form of kidney cancer, and he really ran out of, he did in New York, Sloan Kettering.
Mhm.
And his doctor came to the ER and said, "You're done, go home, put your affairs in order," which I'm eternally grateful, because we had 2
Right.
more months with our boys to get, used to it. And so I went through that experience, but I kept thinking that the two of us are so ill-equipped to deal with this. We've never seen someone die. We've never seen a dead body. We don't know how. I kept thinking, like, he would take a nap on the couch and I'd be like, "Is he dead?" I mean, that's how disconnected
That's awful.
the natural process.
Mhm.
So, it just opened this doorway into the hospice world. And I was like, wow, this is just a ginormous gap. Yes, hospice is here to take care of the medicines, but they don't really have the time or the presence to be with me. I felt like lots of time hospice would hide behind their laptops. They'd open their laptops, like click, 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 and then they'd shut their laptops and then they'd leave. And that, I love hospice and they are vital and we need them and they're amazing, but they're stretched so thin that I just fell through those holes.
Okay. There's a fragmented medical system. We are all well aware of it. We are also, I feel like now, well aware of what happens when there's a very large need at once and we have an elder care crisis. I've been calling this for years and I don't think people are really on the pulse of this. We have never seen an aging population in history like we have now. And it's only demographically slated to increase for decades to come. But here's the good news. Death is not a medical experience. It's a human one. And hospice is absolutely wonderful what they do. But 100 years ago, a grandmother used to teach a grandchild how to do this care. We're missing that. And that's one of the first things you said. We haven't seen anyone end of life. And I'm assuming that no one ever taught you anything about end of life in your journey. So here you were, almost like the perfect storm with these 2 beautiful boys at these young ages, a young husband, and you have a teaching background, correct? Like you've been, and here you didn't have the tools. Now, I just want to ask you, how long was hospice visiting when they were able to come? So people do understand that there's a big period of time for caregivers that we need to create space to fill that somehow. So when the nurse came, and I know you said the laptop, and it's so funny because in my last years at hospice, they implemented that at my hospice, that on the visit, and I was only there once a week for an hour if my patient was stable. And they said, you need to flip up your computer and document on that visit. And I said, I won't do it. People craved for that hour. That hour was, and presence. I'm not going to be truly present with you if I'm chitting away at the computer. And so they said, okay, you have 24 hours to get it in. And literally I was at my kitchen table till like 1 or 2 in the morning documenting, and that had a shelf life of only a few months. I couldn't do that. So this is very important because the presence that we provide can be our best medicine that we give. So how long was hospice actually there with you helping?
They were, like you, we got a nurse once a week. We didn't have an aide. He was fine in that regard. I think he saw a chaplain once or twice. And then 2 weeks before he died, we made the decision to move him to Our Lady of Peace, a hospice house, because he was afraid if he died in the house, the kids would have trouble living there. So the last 2 weeks we're fully taken care of in a facility.
Okay. So again, we want to share how much we absolutely adore hospice. It's a beautiful model of care. And it's all, if people can understand, it's all based on the reimbursement structure from the top down, how all medicine works. And that's where it's just not working. Because you have to, let's call it, it's so interesting because when I say healthcare, those 2 words are positive words, right? And so health is not always within the system. We're always kind of doing other things, which is fine. Because I think a lot of preventative medicine is a beautiful way to go as well, holistically, but also the care and I'm speaking from a former hospice and oncology nurse. I talk all the time about in oncology and also hospice, that was home hospice, but in oncology working for 16-hour shifts. And every time I went to my car, I felt like I didn't do enough. And so these healthcare absolute heroes are almost set up with an impossible task. But again, there's great news coming about. The Doulagivers are coming the non-medical holistic support to not just patients and families, but to mainstream medical, so that they can be there to support with that gap of time. That is a beautiful segue into sharing what you're doing now, what is behind you, and let's talk about this incredible company that you're working with. Because I have to say that people who step out of the box, right? And so one of the things right now when our world is shifting so very much, it's an incredible time to make new innovative changes, and we know things aren't working. So let's take this opportunity to say, okay, what is wrong and what can we do to make it better? And your organization is doing just that. So please share with our listeners what you're doing now.
Okay, I work at Providence Place, which is a skilled nursing facility in Minneapolis. We have about 175 people here. We are owned, the building, brick and mortar, is owned by Senior Care Communities, which is a nonprofit that owns 3 buildings and shares of other buildings. That board saw that Providence Place is a place where people have had chronic mental health problems or issues, drug, homelessness. And so for a variety of reasons, they have been fractured from their families. So when they were dying alone. And the board said, we need to address this issue.
Yeah.
So Nancy Bond is not on the board, but she leads board directive, like initiatives.
Okay.
So she's the one who hired me, and she is the one who I credit with having the vision to know that doulas need to be in skilled nursing facilities. And she was going to show everybody. So the 2 of us worked together to build this program. The dream is that everyone in this building, from dietary to housekeeping to aides to nursing to clinical directors to director of nursing, everyone needs to have a comfort around end of life. So when that person has the courage to say, I'm dying and I'm scared, whoever is in that room has the ability to sit and hold space for those feelings. So we can support them whenever they feel like they need support. So part of my job is direct service. I work with the folks on hospice, or the folks who could qualify but elect not to have hospice. Direct service for those folks and their families. And then I do trainings with staff around different elements like basic end-of-life care, or how do you handle spiritual distress. Basically mini doula skills.
You know, it's really beautiful that you said, and this is so important for people to hear, because we've removed death from our awareness, like literally from our awareness in the last 100 years. You know, I've been with doctors where somebody came into the hospital, their cancer had spread, or they got a terminal diagnosis and are in their late 80s or 90s. So they have had a full life or lived a full life, which is always a gift. And families say to the doctor, fix it. Fix it. So here's what I want to ask you, Jane, is where in this journey did we ever make death the ultimate enemy? And the language we use, fight, fight, fight. He lost his battle. Like, I am putting myself up for the PR position for death. I want to be the PR person for the new way that we death, which means bringing it back to the old way. Because if we, again, shared this sacred, beautiful, natural, and I think what you just shared, giving education to just let people have the tools to not be afraid, to be in the presence of, so that they can hold that space. This is a natural experience. By the way, we're all going to do it. Like, you know, and right. let's get on the same page. And also, doesn't that show us how much more similar, no matter what your background or country or religion, we're all so much more similar. Let's get on that page together.
Right. So changing the culture in this facility with workers and residents is a big part of my job. So we do a butterfly send off. So when a resident dies, we drape the body with a butterfly quilt. We bring them out into a common space and invite residents and staff to attend. And we read a very simple blessing of gratitude for this life and this body. And we play their favorite song as we walk them out the front door. And that has had, I mean, that's my favorite part of it. Yeah, it's my favorite. We just had a woman who her family chose How I Got Over by Aretha Franklin. So we
Yes.
walked her out and people were wheeling to the doors to hear what was going on. And they were holding their hand, or they were pointing up, or they were dancing, or every different thing. And they could see themselves. This is what's going to happen for them. To start thinking about that. So my dream is to have resident doulas,
Yes.
train residents to sit with residents and
Yes.
to normalize all the terminology around a natural death and all the terminology for
Right.
advanced care directive. So they all know what everything means. We talk about it. We talk about grief. Yes.
Empowerment. It's like, you hear Aretha, and of course, just the angels, the skies open up. But what song do you want? And what is a celebration of life? And what do you want people to know? And you know what that does? It gives you back control, it empowers you, but it also lets you think about what is important. And that I am going to have a day where this journey is over. It changes everything. I might hop on a plane one day and come out and see your beautiful residents, because I love it. And
over.
Thank you. And you know what? Celebration of life. For us that work in this space, and I have to share that again, I've been honored and privileged to be with so many people. There are a handful in the journey past that were absolutely beautiful. And I really tried to study what that was. And it really is like a graduation, like a sacred transition to somewhere. And if we can bring the truth about death back and empower with skills and turn it into that celebration. Yet again, I think they do that in Louisiana and things of that nature. But the ritual of that and just what you expressed, people wheeling their chairs in, I have chills in the best way. This is something we can all bring back. And it's just the question of, where did we get the fear of death? How did we lose touch with it? And for you and I, bringing that beautiful space back. Amazing. So I have to honor your institution and you. I do.
Well, and so then I've been here for 1 year, and we were always like, ooh, are we going to get renewed? And then they renewed us, and they gave me an additional doula, and are hiring 2 more doulas and rolling it out at another facility. And people are really excited about it.
And they should be. This is a game changer, and I love it. I think, again, the awareness of nursing homes because of the COVID, I call them blessings of COVID, even though I know it's very hard, but I'm always trying to look for what's here for us to learn. It shined a light on nursing homes not being the greatest of care at times. And I think that we've just got to, with love, no judgment, we've just got to shift this and bring this back. And we have an elder care, again, demographic. They need somewhere. We need to have different things set up that are holistic and beautiful. And that's one of them. I just saw from Canada, 5 employees of a residential home signed on for Doulagivers next semester. This is coming. And I'm so excited, and I'm going to help in every way. So I love that so much. Again, when people have the courage to kind of step out and say, this is what we're doing, which your organization did, you're really, it's going to be interesting to see a year or 2 years from now, what that sparks amongst that. So I honor the people that are behind that, and yourself as well. The third question that we are always asking on the art of Doulagiving is, how has doing this work changed your life personally, if at all? I know, right? And
I think living your purpose, as trite as that sounds, is a game changer, right? I don't think it's right. Like every minute of my day, I come to work and I feel like I'm doing what I was put here to do. It feels like in astrology, Gemini is a hollow tube, and at its best, it's this hollow tube that translates what's above to what's on earth. And I feel like at my best, at my work, that's what I'm doing. I'm getting myself out of the way, and I'm just bringing the love of the universe into this place with these people. And I feel grateful. And I love working with seniors. For one thing, they're like a captive audience. They're trapped in this building because of COVID. And I've just met some great people and learned so much. I just feel grateful that I get to be here every day. I can't, just lucky. And it, of course, like you were saying, at the end of your day, like I get to go walk my dog in this beautiful dog park, and I get to be outside, and I'm so grateful. And I'm just, when you're with people who, I mean, I think I had 57 deaths in this facility last year. So there's a lot of deaths. When you're around, and I'm still learning how to process that much. I'll have 3 people that I'm very close with die in a week. And so I'm still learning how to manage that. And I'm very much looking forward to having another doula in this building that we can support each other. So yeah, I mean, it's changed everything. It's changed everything about everything.
Yeah. I mean, when I say, how has it changed your life? You're like, how has it not? But I think one of the things that as listening to you, and I love that tube analogy, and I'm a Gemini too, which is interesting, but the radio dial that we kind of referenced of connecting to that higher, I feel like when you find that purpose and alignment, you have a clear channel to that at all times. And there's such a peace and connectedness that has so much love around it, that like, you're good. You're just like, you know, and just sitting in gratitude. So thank you so much. I am so lucky that I got to see you in New York City, and that I got to spend time with you, and it's going to be continued, and just watching you out there in the world doing such incredible things. Please tell people how they get in touch with your organization, with you, and I know.
Yeah, well, follow us on Facebook, Providence Place Senior Living in Minneapolis. There's a gazillion Providence places, but look for the one in Minneapolis. Yeah. Because we're putting our end of life stuff on that Facebook page. And my own personal page is deathdoulajane.com. Although, to be totally honest, I let the website go a little bit, but I have a lot of resources on there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to link the institution, where you work. I'll put all of the links below so people can find you. And Jane, I am saying it now, I'm putting it into the universe, that I would love to come out and visit you all at one point, because I love what you're doing and I want to meet your residents. I do. I fell in love with them with the pictures you posted. Yeah. So thank you so much. Continued success. And we will follow you. We'll be following you closely. Okay. Thank you so very much. All right, everyone. This was the Art of Doulagiving, our graduate series. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks, everyone.